The City of Riverbank Regular City Council and Local Redevelopment Authority Board meeting is now in session. Today is Tuesday, August 28th, 2018. It is 6 p.m. Please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. See no one here for the roll call, please.
Council Authority Member Leanne Jones-Cruz.
Here.
Council Authority Member Cal Campbell.
Here.
Council Authority Member District 2 Cindy Fossey.
Here.
Vice Mayor Chair Darlene Barber Martinez.
Here.
Mayor Chair Richard D. O'Brien.
Here. We will change the agenda to meet with Dr. Kemp when he arrives. We will do his presentation, but it will be out of order. Conflict of interest. Any council authority member or staff who has direct conflict of interest on any scheduled agenda item to be considered is to declare the conflict at this time.
I have a conflict of interest on item 6.2.
And I also have a conflict of interest on item 6.2.
Okay. So at that time, we'll have we'll take appropriate measures. Item 2, public comments. No actions can be taken. At this time, members of the public may comment on any item not appearing on the agenda and within the subject matter jurisdiction of the City Council LRA Board. Individual comments limited to 5 minutes per person. Each person may speak once during this time. Time cannot be yielded. Under state law, matters presented during public comment period cannot be discussed or acted upon. For record purposes, state your name and city of residence. Please make your comments directly to the City Council LRA Board. Or do we have any public comment?
Good evening, council members and Mayor O'Brien. My name is Vicki Holt, and I'm the Riverbank Library branch manager, and I have a few programs I want to tell you about. Summer Reading Challenge has ended. We gave out many prizes for kids, teens, and adults. We were excited that one of our Riverbank kids won the county-wide grand prize for teens and tweens. Garrett Wadsworth won a $200 Amazon gift card for reading this summer. Oh. Story time starts back in September on Mondays at 10:30, and bilingual story time is on Tuesday mornings at 10:30. The Mayor Book Club is on the second Monday of the month at 11 a.m. after our regular preschool story time. The next one is on September 10th. We started new computer classes twice a month on Thursday mornings at 10:30. Computer Basics is scheduled on September 6th, and Internet Basics is scheduled for September 20th. Bilingual instruction is available for Spanish speakers. Space is limited, so call the library at 869-7008 to sign up. September's Art Lab is on September 11th at 3:30. Kids will learn how to make wire armatures and create a freestanding sculpture out of foil. This art lab is based on sculptures by the artist Alberto Giacometti. In time for back to school, the kids can make pony bead lizards to decorate their backpacks on September 4th, and duct tape pencil pouches is happening on September 18th, and both crafts are at 3:30. We now have a teen book club. They are reading Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children by Ransom Riggs. The book discussion is on Friday, September 21st at 3:30. Pizza and soda are provided by the Friends of the Riverbank Library. Our book club for grown-ups is reading The Red Tent by Anita Diamond. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but the book discussion for this book is on Tuesday, September 25th at 4 p.m. All programs at the library are free to the public, and it's because of the 1/8 of a cent dedicated sales tax that we're able to offer these programs for free. Please stop by and visit. You are always welcome, and thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Any further public comment? Seeing none, we'll go forward with the consent calendar consisting of item 3A, waive readings. Item 3B, approval of July 24th, 2018 City Council Local Redevelopment Authority minutes. Item 3C, out-of-state travel request to have finance staff attend Caswell Annual User Conference in Salt Lake City, Utah, and Utron Utility Week 2018 in Scottsdale, Arizona. Item 3D, a resolution authorizing the submittal of fiscal year 2017-18 annual program income report and annual performance report for the Community Development Block Grant, CDBG program. Do we have any discussion or anyone want to pull any of the consent items? Do we have any recommendations?
I make a motion that we accept the consent calendar.
I second.
We have a motion to approve and a second on the consent calendar.
Council Authority members Foxy,
Yes.
Campbell,
Yes.
Barbara Martinez,
Yes.
Mayor Chair O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Item 4.1, second reading by title only and adoption of proposed ordinance number 2018-005, amending Title 15, Land Usage, Chapter 153, Zoning Section 153.033, Building Requirements, Single Family Residential District, R1 Zone, by repealing this section in its entirety and substituting it with a new section 153.033, Building Requirements, Single Family Residential District, R1 Zone, to the Riverbank Municipal Code of Ordinances.
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening, Council. We're not going to go through this whole staff report again, as we've talked about it about 4 or 5 times now. This is the second reading. The Council voted unanimously to adopt Ordinance Amendment Option Number 2, which is the substitution of a new section that regulates the height and setback requirements. This was the same option that the Planning Commission recommended. This, again, will address the issue of height above fences in addition to noise and a few other issues that will give us the ability to address when neighborhood issues come up. And be happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Any questions? This is open to the public for public comment. Seeing none, I bring it back to the council.
I just had one comment
Sure.
I'd just like to make on that. I just am happy to see that all of us are, and all of us meaning that the Planning Commission also, I noticed that they had a 5-0 vote, I believe, if I'm reading this correctly, and that we're all on board here with this. I just feel that it's important that we back up the Planning Commission, and I like the recommendations, and I appreciate their hard work. So I just wanted to put that in there. Thank you.
Okay. Go ahead.
I make a motion that we approve item 4.1.
I second that motion.
Is this going to be, we have to state the Section 2?
No, well. So just to clarify, your motion, Vice Mayor, was for option 2 as presented?
Right, option 2.
Yes.
Okay. And a second?
Yes.
We have a motion to approve item 4.1 and a second using option 2.
Council members Fossey,
Yes.
Campbell,
Yes.
Joan Cruz,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Barbara Martinez,
Yes.
Mayor O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Item 5.1, conduct the first reading by title only and introduction of a proposed ordinance amending downtown specific plan, section 2.3.4, signage, by repealing the section in its entirety and substituting it with a new section 2.3.4, signage.
Thank you, Mayor. Our Planning and Building Manager, Donna Kinney, is going to give this report, and while she's coming up, I'll just share that this item arose from a number of businesses, primarily in the downtown, bringing up some of the desires that they'd like for more representation of downtown businesses that it's difficult for those businesses to get, that is different from what you might have if you have a commercial business along Patterson or anywhere along Highway 108, really, or in the Crossroads Shopping Center. So Donna had did a workshop with her Planning Commission and then subsequent public hearings on this matter to try to figure out new, innovative ways to provide more options for businesses. Go ahead, Donna.
Thank you, and good evening, council and mayor. Okay, as noted, this is an amendment to the downtown specific plan, specifically the signage section. Currently, the permitted sign types for the downtown area are wall signs, awning, projecting, window, marquee, and monument signs. When the Planning Commission had their public hearing in June, we discussed all the permitted as well as the prohibited signage downtown. And then the discussion seemed to focus on A-frame signs. So the pictures of two signs that we generally think of when we think of A-frame signs. So the direction from the Planning Commission is that they would like to see the downtown businesses allowed one directional A-frame sign apiece that could be located either on Highway 108 or Atchison between 1st and 4th Street. So the signage would have a logo and an arrow on either side that would point to the downtown. Or they could choose to locate it on Patterson Road, and both these locations, though, are subject to any Caltrans or railroad rules about where they could locate the signs. But then the ones on Patterson Road could be located between 1st and 3rd Street. And like the ones on Atchison, they would each have an arrow that would point to the downtown. It's hoped that allowing them this additional signage would draw more people downtown, increase their revenues, and allow the businesses to stay in business. We also discussed at the Planning Commission meeting a city electronic sign. And there was a lot of discussion in that direction. Mostly there was support from Development Services and from the Recreation Department. The Planning Commission was a little bit hesitant. They wanted to make sure that the design fit in well with the downtown, that it wasn't kind of like, standing out like a sore thumb, that they felt that the downtown had a character, and we should kind of respect that flavor if we do move forward with electronic signage. They did allow us to keep that language in the resolution that they approved 5-0 to recommend these changes to you. Just to add to that, what this proposed amendment does is it would allow an electronic sign somewhere between the eastern edge of town on Atchison, down through the downtown on Atchison, and around the curve on Callender to where the downtown specific plan ends. So we're only talking about a location within the downtown specific plan at this time. If the city or the Planning Commission would like an electronic sign in other areas of town, we would have to amend the actual municipal code itself because it has a separate sign section. I would be happy to answer any questions for you if you have any.
I do. I have a couple questions. The first one is on Patterson, we don't have any sidewalks. So if we put it on the side of the railroad tracks, does that mean that we have to get an approval from the railroad?
Yes, if they were on that north side. If we were to allow them on the south side of Patterson, then we do have some sidewalks over there. And hopefully in the near future, we will have sidewalks on the north side of Patterson.
Okay, and then my second question is, if we decide on an electronic sign, who would be paying for it?
Well, there will be another item brought forward to you. The Director of Parks and Recreation has been looking into it, and there is a company that would install signage for the city. It would be up to us to maintain it, but they would sell the ads, and the city would get a certain percentage of those ads that we could put towards maintenance or to other programs for the downtown businesses. We've only checked with one company right now, and we're looking at a couple of more. And if we'll bring the item back to you to look at that and approve a contract or allow the city manager to go into contract if the program that we bring you is acceptable.
Just a small comment. I'm not sure if I had a business on Patterson or Atchison that I would want a bunch of A-frame signs in front of my business. That's all I have to say about it.
I have a question, Donna.
Yes.
I know what they're trying to do, and I respect that. I'm not sure if it's the exact correct way to do it, but they've got to do something. But the sidewalks on Atchison, are they Caltrans? Will we be violating Caltrans property in some way? And I say that because we have a piece of property on the corner of Atchison that my wife owns in 4th Street, and when Caltrans, they had to make the corner ADA compliant. So I would assume that the sidewalk's theirs, but I don't know for sure.
It may be there, may be theirs, but there are businesses that do have some front yardage where if the business owner were to get permission to have it on private property, that would be an option as well. We would still have to do, a little bit of research to make sure we know exactly where the signs are going, to ensure that, they follow Caltrans regulations as well as the cities. But let's have a proposal first to
And currently, to go along with what Councilmember Martinez spoke about, if they're only going to put them there between 3rd and 4th Street, right now in Atchison, there's not a lot there at this point that they would be affecting business-wise, except down toward one end of it. I do think that we do need to try to help them get business downtown, and if this will work temporarily for, to help them out, I think we could bend a little bit with them. Okay, that's all.
Sure. Well, the thought with staff and having the electronic sign is there would be 15-minute or 15-second or 30-second ads that the downtown businesses could rotate through. Staff didn't necessarily support the A-frame signs, but it's something that the Planning Commission thought would work, and so we're recommending it to you.
And any A-frame signage would have to have, permission from the property owner that like if you were talking about the business, well, they just can't put it on out there. They'd have to get permission. And the electronic signage, wherever we want to put it, it doesn't have to be between 1st and 4th Street on the Patterson side. It would be closer towards the high school, directing downtown, but also the community events. And you've seen one, you could put one on Oakdale that you can actually have a displayed message instead of, the sign that we have now, the electronic. You have to drive extremely slow to get the total meaning of the message that they have up there. So I can see the electronic signs, similar to the way that you see in Oakdale. Those are great signs, they're clear. And if we bought it, we would own all of it, and the profits would go back into Park and Recreations, or whatever we designate. Or if we get it from another company that's providing the services, they'll get a larger portion of it, which is fine, as long as we get the control of the type of advertisements and how we do our events that we have being announced, whether it's the cheese and wine or it's the Christmas parade, anything that draws people back down to this area. And I know Oakdale has, I believe, 3 signs, which are, good. You could have it at each of your main entries into the city of Riverbank, where you, and you can have it programmable, like Crossroads will have Crossroads advertisement, but also advertisements for the city. And the same thing as downtown will have downtown advertisement, but advertisements for the city. And it's a good way to get the message out, like read the draft EIR, and you won't have people say, well, I didn't know. So anyway, I thought it was a great idea, and I'd like to see that move forward.
I think it's a great idea also. We used to have kind of that old school sign that was by the cannery you put up with the weather. And I think we lost that a while back during one of the storms, and yeah, I think we'll remember that. So I think it would be a great idea to, we didn't replace that sign once it fell down, so this sounds like a little more up-to-date idea to put something back in place.
Maybe we should take a look at that. I know we've spoken about it several times, and the A-frames do have their problems, and I would look at it as a temporary situation. But at the same time, maybe we could do some research and find a way to, start putting these signs in, because most communities seem to be getting them. So it's something that if we're going to stay with them, we need to maybe look at a little more.
I believe that is in the works. That's what we were told.
Yeah, we could look at this as a first step, see how it works, what type of reaction you get to people wanting to buy the ads, and then expand that to other parts of the city if it seems like it's working well.
All right? Thank you.
You're welcome.
This is a public hearing. Seeing no public input, I close public hearing, bring it back to the council for recommendation.
I'll make a motion that we accept this agenda item as stated.
I'll second it.
We have a motion to accept and a second.
Council members Fosse,
Yes.
Campbell,
Yes.
Jones Cruz,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Barbara Martinez,
Yes.
Mayor O'Brien.
Yes,
Motion passes 5-0.
thank you.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Mayor, could I just announce that the audio in here isn't working, so you might want to speak up because maybe the audience can't hear you. I believe TV Land can hear us and the
Okay.
recording, but in here, for some reason,
If
something's
someone
happening.
has a problem hearing me, we need a hearing aid. All right.
Thank you.
Do you still, I have a question, you still want us to turn the mic on?
Yes.
Leave
just
it on
in-
then?
Yeah, because it's going out to the TV.
Item 6.1, approval of the 6-month strategic objective, June 2018 through December 2018.
Thank you, Mayor. Just one, I think we're pulling up a PowerPoint, but while we're doing that, council met on May 25th for most of the day strategic planning session, which has become a biannual process here. We go through the same process, have been going through the same process for a number of sessions now. We go through a SWOT analysis, team building, and then council brainstorms a number of objectives that we'd like to see, or you'd like to see completed in this strategic planning 6-month session. So obviously these usually come to you a lot sooner after that. We've had a lengthy break in between meetings, so apologies for that. But I'm not going to go through every single one of these. These are available online. They're available in the office if anybody would like to come get a copy. A lot of these are legacy items that take more than just a 6-month period. Some of them are new, so I'll jam through these. But as council directed them, I'm assuming that generally council's okay with them. Each one of the top section, for those who didn't attend the session, are the 4 3-year goals, and within the sections below that, these are the kind of sub-tasks that have been assigned. So for achieve and maintain financial stability and sustainability, you have the master developer contract. We're going to look into options for CalPERS, a user fee study, which we're already working on, and working on a tax sharing agreement with the county, which has been going on for about a year now. The next section is attract, develop, and retain quality staff. We have identify proper staffing levels and develop a 5-year staffing and succession plan. Hold a team building and update an employee survey with recommendations, which we'll report to council. This section is very wordy because it's the lengthiest one of the 4 goals. We have directions on hiring staff for GIS or PIO, IT, which actually was a holdover from last one. We're still working on that. Identify and present funding for a citywide park and facility master plan for action. Conduct a spatial analysis. This item, the assistant city manager, myself, and a couple other staff are already working on that. RFP will be out. Develop a plan for the completion of water meter project and rollout of consumption billing. That's also in the process. Identify water needs, storm, waste, and potable within the city in light of potential changing groundwater reports, and present that to City Council for action. Determine the feasibility of funding stormwater improvement under SB 231 and make a recommendation for council action. That's a future objective. The reason that's a future objective is that SB 231 is basically unusable at this stage. No one in the state has tried to enact SB 231 because the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association has basically said they will sue the first city that tries. So we'll be keeping an eye on that. And then another future objective is to develop the East Side Industrial Master Plan. Two more holdovers from that. No, I've just addressed those. Expand economic development opportunities for businesses. Provide council with an update on the removal of obstacles for development of Patterson and Estelle. That's a very large area of commercial land, which has kind of been locked for some time now, so we're working on that. Continued development of online processes, for example, paying fees online for permits. Hold a joint city council and planning commission workshop to discuss the plan for Crossroads West. This one actually we're pretty far down the road on. We have tentatively chosen September 5th, which is next Wednesday, so mark your calendars, for that. It's going to be an informational session on where the project of Crossroads West is at and the next steps. We'll be getting out some information to the community for that. It's going to be brief, it's educative, it's not a public hearing, but it'll pave the road for when we do get to public hearings. Negotiate the development agreement for Crossroads West. That's in process right now. We're meeting almost every other week on that. Identify ways to direct traffic downtown and promote downtown activity. Signs on Atchison, one on Patterson, and install over the arch on 3rd. So it's great to bring some strategic objectives that you just completed. So we'll be moving forward with those, obviously, per council's approval just an item ago. And then develop and present to council a action for incentive system for businesses downtown, which Norma and I are working on. Enhance public safety. Hire at least one deputy sheriff, making progress towards a 1 to 1,000 ratio. We are in the process with the chief of adding one general deputy to our staff. And in addition to that, we're working on an SRO agreement with the school, so we may actually get to two deputies. Hold a mock disaster preparedness event. Identify funding for additional streetlights. Present the illegal fireworks ordinance to City Council for action. Annabelle has been working on that, and we believe that'll be ready in October. And install police cameras in parks, public places, and roads. That's a future objective, but we're looking at funding for that currently. And that is the very condensed version of a lot of work. We'll be coming back with obviously all of those items to talk about in great detail, but that is the general work plan for the next 6 months. I'll be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Just one recommendation. Change either the background of your slides, because that was getting a little dizzy. Or...
Was it how fast I was going?
No, it wasn't no, if you take a look at it, it's kind of... Go to the next slide.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe larger font.
Either that or you make it black and so you can read it, but it's...
Color contrast.
You're really not going to like my other two PowerPoints that I...
Or you put yellow so we won't read it at all.
I just have a comment about our, the work that we did on our strategic goals. I think that it was very, what's the word I want to say? I felt proud seeing our staff and our council members coming together to work for the betterment of the community. And I'm proud of the job and work that we did together as a group. Thank you.
My comment is that it is open to the public, even though you can't participate, but you would get to see us working together with the staff in coming to the conclusions that we come to. and the process that we use. And you might find it interesting sometimes just to come and watch for a while.
Okay. Anyone from the public wish to speak on our strategic objectives?
My name is Tony Henderson. I live at 27 Speaker Street. I think it's a good idea to do that. I also think anytime that those street lights and stuff, those police cameras and stuff, I think we should have those, especially because how bad crime's getting and stuff.
Thank you. Any other public comment? All right, seeing none, bring it back to, I guess, do we accept this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Make a motion that we accept item 6.1, approval of 6-month strategic plan objectives.
I second.
We have a motion to approve the 6-month strategic objectives and a second.
Council members Fossey,
Yes.
Campbell,
Yes.
Jones Cruz,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Barbara Martinez,
Yes.
Mayor Ryan.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Item 6.2, we have 2 conflicts of interest. Okay.
You need to leave.
And in this conflict, is, from my understanding, it's Kiwi, Gun, and, oh, you're from Federated. Never mind. I got it now. It clicked on me.
Okay. Federated.
Sorry, we're going to the Women's Club.
Okay, item 6.2, request for waiver of fees for downtown sip and stroll event.
Thank you, Mayor. Staff has received a request from Keith's Custom Guns in addition to other involved downtown businesses and the Riverbank Federated Women's Club for a fee waiver for fees associated with a street closure application. The street closure is requested to facilitate a sip and stroll event, which is intended to showcase downtown businesses. The concept is essentially that, they have a night. It'll be it's requested for September 14th from 6 to 9, where members of the community come down, and basically it's an open house, and you can go in. They will not be selling alcohol. If you go in and obviously you're of age, you can have a glass of wine while you kind of tour the businesses. In addition to that, they've been able to get a car club to come down, so they're going to park and so people can check out the vehicles, potentially a food vendor, and obviously it's a fairly small scale event, but it's just intended as a way to kind of build a little bit of excitement for some of the small businesses downtown. They did have this last year, and it went well, and so the Riverbank Federated Women's Club and downtown businesses are interested in trying to recreate it. And the fiscal impact is really minor. We have Sue has advised she has some part-time staff that'll pull out the barricades and take them in, and the chief has reviewed the event and is not going to be requiring additional security, and we expect it to go well, and we'll monitor it, and if it continues to go well, we'll maybe bring something back next year.
My only comment is having alcohol served in a gun shop. I mean, I'm not being funny about it. It's just, as long as he curtails who he's selling to that night.
Yeah, they have the chief and I think we talked about that a little bit. They have a variety of rules that they have to follow that are pretty strict, and so I suspect that the majority of that is going to be taking place at other businesses.
Okay.
And also, they have a little lot right next to their business where I think that's the main kind of area.
Where they'll be serving
Will
it.
be in the store.
Okay. Do I have any comments or questions?
I think this goes right along with our strategic planning to support them downtown, and I think that we should go ahead with it because we maybe can turn this into something that would develop into something even better.
Anyone from the public wish to comment? Seeing none, I bring it back for council consideration.
I make a motion that we approve item 6.1 as so stated?
Two.
Two, excuse me.
I second.
We have a motion to approve 6-2 and a second.
Council members Fosse,
Yes.
Campbell,
Yes.
Mayor O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 3-0.
You want to go? They're coming. They understand sign language.
Visiting time's over. You got to come back to work.
I was in there going to take a nap.
Okay, item 6-3, a resolution amending the discount amounts and eligibility program requirements for the Utility Rate Assistance Program, URAP, for water and sewer rates.
Thank you, Mayor. Our Assistant City Manager has not only designed this program, but is now reforming it. She'll give the report tonight.
So good evening, Mayor and City Council members. In April of 2016, the City Council adopted our Utility Rate Assistance Program, which provides assistance to our low-income seniors and those that are permanently disabled. After 2 years of activity with the program, we've been able to help a total of 30 residents with the discounts that they've received. And through that, we've also been able to note a few areas where we feel that it's appropriate to make amendments in order to make the program available to more seniors. The first of them being, we currently have a income limit that's set at the extremely low income limit. Those income limits are set by the state of California on an annual basis. Our recommendation is to set that to the very low income, so that would move it from a current income limit of about $13,000 for one person to $20,000 for a single person. I've had times where I've had to deny a person because they were over income by $18 for the entire year, and so we know that the intent of the program is to help those seniors and permanently disabled who are on that fixed income and who could really use the assistance for the program. The second amendment that I'm recommending is making the program available year-round. Initially, we thought that there would be a huge response to the program, that we would have a large number of applications that we would have to process, and that's why the intent was to keep it limited to a certain time frame so that it would not impact staff. Obviously, with only having helped 30 residents, we haven't had the number of applications that have impacted staff. It actually is a pretty simple program now that we've ran it for 2 years to be able to income screen them. And so we feel that it's appropriate to have the applications available year-round rather than at a certain time. That would also allow any new residents who move into Riverbank to be able to apply once when they sign up for service. And the third proposed change is not with the eligibility requirements, but with the dollar amount that's been set for the discount. We initially proposed a discount of $15, and that was accepted by the City Council. Over the past 2 years, we've had 2 additional rate increases, so that's impacted those residents once again because those rate increases have come into effect. So we're proposing raising that discount from $15 to $19, which would provide a $228 savings to our residents. And so that would be effective as of this next billing cycle. So this first billing cycle of the fiscal year, they would still have the $15 per month discount. Starting in September, they would have a discount of $19 for the year.
What is the poverty rate for a single?
So that
it 20,000?
13,000 is the extremely low. So that is, so the medium, there's another level right above ours, which is considered the medium poverty level, and that's set at about 28.
Okay. I can accept 20 right now, but let's take a look at how we can affect more if this program continues to grow to the poverty level of 28,000. Yeah. Because I know that we are not in a hardship area or low income by design, but we barely make it above that. I think our medium household is 58,000, where medium household is $50,000 per family or multiple individuals. So, or incomes. So, not right now, but as we're evaluating this next stage, evaluate the further down the road.
Yeah, I know with the changes that we're proposing to the very low income, it will significantly open up the program for those residents that have two incomes, two fixed incomes, so a couple who may be empty nesters, and those are the ones that I've had to deny the most.
Okay.
I just want to make a comment that I'm glad to see that we're making this recommendation, because when we first talked about a utility rate discount, I was glad to see that we were having that discussion and talking about it, because my biggest concern was those are on Social Security with those fixed incomes. So I did some research, and the Social Security COLA increases for 2016 was 0.3%. And 2% for 2017 and 2% for 2018. And I'm just glad to see that we can help more people, because it really meant a lot to me that we were even having that discussion for them. Thanks.
And so far, with the residents that we've been able to help, the city council established a budget for both the sewer and the water discount of $50,000, and combined, we've only spent $5,000 a year. So I'm sure there are a lot more residents who will be able to take advantage of the program now that we're making these changes.
Are we also going to put out some notices, put it in the flyer and that type of thing?
Yes, we actually had a lot of people who responded to our notice in our last utility bill newsletter, and so we hope to do the same, as well as do some Facebook and another post.
Okay. Anyone from the public wish to make a comment or to make a statement of any sort? Seeing none, I bring it back to the city council for consideration.
I make a motion to approve item
6.3.
6.3.
I'll second it.
We have a motion to approve item 6.3, which is the URAP, and a second.
Council members Fossey,
Yes.
Campbell,
Yes.
Jones Cruz,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Barbara Martinez,
Yes.
Mayor O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Item 6.4, a resolution formally opposing Proposition 6, the repeal of SB 1.
Thank you, Mayor. Okay, so these next two items are going to be a little more political in nature than we're used to here, but so I'm going to step through them. I know council knows quite a bit about one or both of these, but this is for members of the public and anybody else that may be interested. The League of California Cities has requested that the City Council consider this resolution of opposition to Proposition 6. Let's start with what Proposition 6 is, and in order to tell that story, I've got to explain what SB 1 is. SB 1 was passed by the legislature and signed into law by Governor Brown in 2017. It was essentially the gas tax and registration increase that we've seen over the last year. Those taxes were projected to raise $52 billion, and they're dedicated towards street and road maintenance, transit, congestion relief, active transportation programs, regional and statewide transportation projects, and local planning grants. Since SB 1 was approved, the City of Riverbank has used SB 1 funds to partially fund our most recent crack seal project. We anticipate to use them on a number of upcoming street and roadway projects, including sidewalks, crosswalks, overlays, signalization, and other transportation projects, large-scale ones. Riverbank is also expected to receive about $685,000 yearly from SB 1, and they can only be spent, these funds, on transportation-related projects. We can't use them for water, we can't use them for police, just transportation projects. The revenue we've actually received is quite a bit less than $685,000 so far this first year. Some of that may be due to a lag in the collection, or just incorrect analyst assumptions about what they would collect, but we do expect that to continue to rise. Proposition 6, which is the item that you're considering opposing or not opposing tonight, was qualified to begin collecting signatures in 2017. The initiative qualified with enough in June of 18. A number of taxpayer association groups backed this initially, and the issue has become incredibly political. It would essentially roll back the provisions of the gas tax of SB1 and would require, in addition to that, that any fuel or vehicle tax in the future require voter approval. So, what are the arguments in favor of Proposition 6? That the ones that you would assume would be the common sense sort of arguments opposed to SB1. It's significantly expensive for individuals and families, which leads to concern of the cost of living in California. Concerns over potential raids of those funds for use in other areas by the government. Concerns over high levels of monetary waste that inhibit the completion of the actual projects that they're supposed to be paying for. The view that the tax is regressive in nature, and by this I mean that it's more expensive for someone to live under SB1 that is of a lower income than it would be for a family, because when I buy a gallon of gas and a millionaire buys a gallon of gas, we both pay the exact same amount of tax for that gallon of gas. The opinion that the state should be spending their budgetary surpluses on roadway projects versus creating new taxes for the population, and then the desire to create this requirement that the voters should approve these taxes and not the legislature. Arguments opposing Proposition 6 is the opinion that eliminating SB1 would jeopardize the safety of bridges and roads and eliminate or reduce the funding for maintenance and repair. It would effectively stop a number of projects that are currently underway. We are in a good position because our Development Services Administration Manager we're very conservative about how we use those monies, so we're not in risk of having to cancel any of our current projects. We'll be continuing to save until we have enough to do one. But there are 6,500 projects statewide that are underway that are at risk. Elimination of jobs and economic investment that are a result of SB1. So you have to imagine every single city in California and every county in the state are all spending money on construction projects to upgrade and maintain the roads. That's a tremendous economic boom to the economy, and so there's some concern about what happens if that just disappears after 1 year. And then it's estimated that 89% of county roads are in poor or at-risk condition. If you've ever driven out on the back roads, to Waterford or down into the South County, especially in other counties like Merced County, for example, it's like you might as well get new tires because there's so many potholes. So there's concern that those situations are simply going to get much and much worse. And the idea of SB1 in the beginning was investment in the roads as an economic engine. So the real question is for the council tonight is, what does this mean for Riverbank? It essentially just means that we have less funds to do the necessary deferred maintenance and upgrade projects that we need to do. We still will do projects. We still have other methods. We have Measure L now. We have the highway user tax allocation. So there still is plenty of opportunity for us to do projects, but it does hinder our ability to do those large-scale transformative ones because we're just waiting longer to bank the money to do them. Obviously for the community, though, if it passes, the benefit would be that people are paying less for gas and registration fees. So really, to boil it down to the simplest levels, that's essentially what it is. So the league is requesting that you consider opposing this formally, and then we'll see what happens in November at the ballot. But happy to answer any questions.
I have one question concerning future taxation. Is it in this proposal that any tax increase after 1 January of this year and in the future, and if it's not passed by 2/3 majority, is then eliminated?
You mean the ones that have already been approved?
Yes.
No, it's only future, is my understanding. But is that correct, Tom?
Yeah, that's right. That was the initiative that was dropped.
That was dropped.
Yes.
So any tax, like we have a tax initiative now, and if it passes at 50% plus 1, would that become law, or will that then be negated by Prop 6?
No, it only would apply if it's a road or gas tax or vehicle registration tax.
Okay, so initially, it was for all.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
And that was draft. I see.
Any comment, questions?
Yeah, I was told, we'll have to fact find on this one, that Riverbank currently has 51 projects that are funded by this particular bond. And so, yeah,
Well,
51 projects. And if that's true, I mean, I was just told last night, so I know I'm springing this on you, and it's all right if you don't get back to me like, oh my gosh. But if that is true, that, we've got a significant hand in this, that Riverbank will be affected, even if it isn't that particular number. I feel that we need to, I personally oppose Proposition 6 because I think we're going to lose jobs, we won't be able to fund some projects. I think it's kind of important that we keep this fund. It's already there. I'm never for a tax, but this one already is there. We have projects that we're doing with it. So that's just my 2 cents that I wanted to throw out there. I think we should do this.
Plus, what are the bridges? Over 50% are questionable?
The bridge, that is, if you look at the folks that are funding the opposition of this initiative, that is their primary argument, is that the bridges in California are in such terrible shape. And retrofitting an existing bridge is an incredibly expensive process, and absent this funding, a lot of those bridges will be essentially, at some point will fall into such a state of disrepair that they won't be usable.
That's true.
I understand the need for this funding, but I also understand the need to put the money back in our citizens' pockets. I myself struggle with the price of gas going up and the registration fees. So I'm a little torn on which way to go, because yes, we need the money. But then again, we have a lot of people that were living on the edge, and now that edge is starting to fall apart because of these extra dollars. So
I agree with what Cindy said. I think the tax is going to do some good, but I'm concerned about future taxes, and I'm also concerned that this state has some big projects going on, that if they would have taken some of that money and used it on the infrastructure, we wouldn't maybe be in the same situation we are. But my concern is, like what Cindy said, I hope that they don't keep coming up with more taxes, because every time they do that, it makes it more difficult for people that are trying to make it and are just barely making it. But at this time, I'll still support it.
This isn't a new tax. This is already there. This one's already been voted for. This particular proposition is trying to repeal it.
right, but it wasn't voted for by the citizens. It was put into effect, and it's been in a year?
Yeah, and it got 2/3 majority through the through the Assembly and the Senate, I believe.
Yeah, I just think it's going to affect a lot of people, as we've already heard that there are projects that we have in the works, and I just think that we ought to support it and just say no on Proposition 6.
Anyone from the public wishing to speak on this issue?
I have no intention of speaking, but this cuts to my family. So my name is Eva Nash, and when you spoke about the effects of taxes on families, we feel it. We're a family of 4, and the gas and the registration, how much it's gone up, it affects us. Even $20 more a month affects us. It's not peanuts, it's not nothing. It's very real. It's gallons of milk, it's bread, it's all of that. So if we as a city are in a good place and we're being wise with our money and being conservative with what we have, I don't know why we have to, the projects of other cities are not being as responsible as this city. Another thing, my understanding is we pay for that already. This gas tax was an addition. So we as citizens, we pay for this. So you brought up the responsibility sometimes of our state to take on projects that we can afford that are billions and billions of dollars. My understanding was that they're barely updating the fire helicopters. I could be wrong, but those are from the 1970s. So as a citizen, as a family of 6, this is very real. And when we see our registration and I saw the gas go up again, it hurts Riverbank families. So as a city council, my understanding is that the obligation is to Riverbank and its residents and what we can do to make this city vibrant. And if we're being wise or trying to be wise and considerate of the taxpayers in our city, I think that needs to be thought of. I know we're all compassionate, and sometimes compassion gets in the way of stepping back and seeing it for really what it is. So thank you, Cindy, for bringing that up, for bringing the families, because as my husband's working and I'm a stay-at-home mom now, but that affects us and we don't, that's all. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Any further public comment?
My name's Luis Uribe. I live on Virginia. I too oppose Proposition 6. I think that if we invest, I think the money that you save on like gas and repairs will hopefully balance out any issues. Thank you.
Anyone else? Then I bring it back to the council. Let's have more comments and then we'll go for action. The gas tax had not been increased for almost 27 years, I believe. And it's just, it wasn't even brought up to your normal increases that you would have on cost of living over that 27 years. So it's still a very low portion. Yes, it does affect everyone. It affects others disproportionately. The infrastructure throughout the United States have been hampered by both at the state level and the federal level of not being able to get a transportation bill through any of the legislative bodies. The U.S. is still struggling. They have continuing resolutions, but does not tackle transportation issues. California at least tackled the transportation issues, and there are a lot of them. It's not just in other cities, but throughout the state. It goes from a lot of the highway infrastructures as well as just regular old street within the city's infrastructure. And we get our fair share. It comes back to our county, our city, in our fair share. I'm opposed to increasing, but if you're increasing and you have a cause, and you have the cause and effect of better roads, better transportation, better commute times, using less gas in that commute, then that is a saving in the future. I understand the issues of struggling. I'm on a fixed income now, but it's to survive in any household or any community, you have to expect increases in your cost of living, because that's as it is projected throughout. So this is nothing more than the increase at a lower rate, your cost of living over 27 years. So that's my 2 cents. I know others have other senses.
I already gave mine.
You gave yours? Okay, everyone gave theirs?
Yes.
All right. On opposition to SB 6, I move that we oppose SB 6.
I second the
Just to
motion.
confirm, Proposition 6?
Yeah, Proposition 6, I'm sorry. Proposition 6, I'm reading it right in front of me.
And I second that motion.
Who was the first motion? Council members Fossey,
No.
Campbell,
Yes.
Jones Cruz,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Barbara Martinez.
Yes.
Mayor O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-1.
Item 6.5, consideration of whether to adopt or not adopt a resolution opposing the State Water Resources Control Board's Bay Delta Plan and substitute environmental document.
Wow, I really shouldn't have picked this theme. Sorry about that one. Please don't have a seizure while we're doing this. Okay, so on to an equally political issue, maybe even more so in a way. So I'm going to, before I get started here, I am going to just say that I am not an expert on the Bay Delta Plan or the supplemental environmental document, but I'm going to play one here for the purposes of this presentation. This is a complicated problem, a complicated situation with a lot of different opinions, and it really takes each person's individual time researching it to come to an understanding about it, but I'm going to give you the basics. So here's a picture of the tributaries that lead into the delta. You have the Stanislaus River, which is the one that's closest to us, obviously, the Tuolumne River south of Modesto, and then you have the Merced River between Turlock and Merced. All of those rivers have dams, as you can see mostly on that picture, and those dams we'll come back to here in just a second. So what in the world does this whole thing mean? The Bay Delta Plan is intended to establish water quality and use objectives for the various needs that water flows serve in our region. Agriculture, environment, business, and even residential and commercial use. The State Water Quality Control Board has to update this plan every 3 years. The plan dictates water flows for the beneficial use objectives within those, the Bay Delta and its tributaries. The most recent update states that because of the dams along these rivers, which store water and help prevent flooding in addition to other things, insufficient water flow exists for the necessary ecological purposes downstream. So what you have is the way that essentially the delta works is that the water that's constantly flowing downstream counteracts a lot of the salt water that can come in from the ocean, which the salt water gets far enough up the delta, it destroys wildlife and kills fish in addition to a number of other issues. It also affects agriculture closer down the delta. The theory that of this updated plan and supplemental environmental document which studied that plan was that if more water was unimpeded, it would work to restore the current ecological issues that you have downstream. In other words, it would push more of that salinity, that salt water, down further to the inlet, and it would slowly, and this is what some scientists believe, would restore fish and wildlife and some other ecological problems in those areas. The current iteration of the plan as presented would dedicate a large percentage, about 40% of the Stanislaus, Tuolumne, and Merced rivers for fish and pulse flows from February to June each year. These increased flows are intended to benefit the ecosystem, as I just stated. So why does this matter? So what? Who cares? Depending on who you ask, it's a kind of a loaded question. Oakdale Irrigation District and South San Joaquin Irrigation District anticipate about 20% reductions in their water allotments, which leads to reduced water resources for agriculture. And I'll get to what else that then continues to affect down the line. There's a spillover issue. These reductions would be even more significant during years of drought conditions, so you'd see even less or greater reductions in the water allotments that those irrigation districts get. And water obviously is a limited resources, and changes to policy have implications both positive and negative beyond just the river flow issue. So what concerns are there? Obviously, the fallowing of agricultural land and lower agricultural production results in the reduced economic multiplier effect. Obviously, ag is our number one industry here in the valley, and anything that threatens that has implications all the way from here down to Bakersfield. increased groundwater pumping to make up for the loss of surface irrigation water. So during the drought, especially down south of us, one of the things that we began to see was when water allotments were cut, farmers, and especially large-scale farmers with hundreds of acres, were supplementing their reduced water allotments by basically drilling extremely deep and heavy wells. So, if you think of it like, the classic example, like a milkshake with multiple straws in it, the more straws that are in the ground, the less groundwater there is, and what you start to see is other wells that exist currently, maybe even like a city well, start to fail or experience groundwater contamination issues because you don't have as much of a clean supply. That leads to the next one, declining aquifer levels and overall quality. This is one of those situations where the state is kind of giving us conflicting things we need to follow. They would like to push forward this, but on the other hand, they're also asking us to manage our groundwater basins more sustainably. This makes it very difficult for us because the possibility is that those basins start to become impacted by this additional well drilling, possible well drilling. There's obviously a lot of disagreement over base scientific assumptions and the best way to rehabilitate the fish population. So the industries that depend on this water have obviously gone out and solicited different scientific opinions about how we can solve this problem without dedicating 40% of unimpeded flows. And they've come up with a number of ideas. One is to focus on the predator populations that affect them. There's also some more regional approaches versus this sort of overall approach. And then there's some concern about whether or not what is proposed actually would contribute to improved ecological health. Why does it matter for Riverbank? So from my perspective and from staff's perspective, we are concerned about any increase in groundwater pumping anywhere around our community. We have a number of very large wells that service the entire community's water, and anything that puts those at risk is of great concern to us because the ratepayers of this community pay a lot of money to have clean, available water, and it's really, without water you don't have a community. That's the bottom line. We talked about declining aquifer levels. We talked about the sustainable groundwater management, and then obviously we are concerned about what happens economically regionally for Riverbank if we start to see some sort of spillover negative effects from this. This obviously seems complicated, and if it does, it's because it is. You have experts on every side giving completely different opinions about what should be done here, and this has been going on for 5 years. This plan was originally brought up, then they did a couple years worth of study, and I think the mayor and vice mayor both attended a rally in Sacramento about a week ago on this, and they're talking about substantively the same issues they've been talking about for 5 years. Obviously, it's complicated because there is an important need to support and maintain the environment. And we do not want a situation where salinity levels up the delta are destroying the delta and all the other resources that are there. The question is what's the reasonable solution without destroying a different sector? Most communities in the valley have opposed this plan. I believe every single community in Stanislaus County, if I'm not mistaken. The city of Riverbank, for whatever reason, never brought this issue formally, although individual council members have taken a position on this, and so we had thought that it would be time to at least have the discussion and get some direction from council on a formal city of Riverbank opinion on this matter. And that's all I have. I'll be happy to answer any questions. I'll try to answer any questions.
Okay, this is a very hot topic. I'm going to ask a couple questions. When do the salmon run? October, November? Okay. Let's talk October, November.
Oh, is that a rhetorical question?
No, that's when they run. So we are going to help the salmon run better by releasing a lot more water February through June. Oops, we missed it. So why is this important? So you have to ask, is there any alternatives? Well, you're going to take most of the Sacramento River out of the delta. And that, I mentioned this before, publicly, I'll mention it again. Those twin tunnels are going to take 60 to 80% of the Sacramento River and pump it directly down to our neighbors in Southern California. So, if you're going to take 60 to 80% of your largest river out of the delta, you need to put water in to compensate, to prevent the brackish water from creeping on in. So where do you take it from? Well, I heard the governor at one time say, you know, if agriculture fails, we have sources or resources elsewhere, talking about outside the state or outside the country. We don't want that. So the California Resource Board has two objectives. One, take the water from Sacramento. The other is to take water from us. Those are two separate topics. You can never get them to talk about it at the same time because, well, that's not all. We only are here for the unimpeded flows. Or we're only here to talk about the tunnels. We don't know what's going on next door in the other office. That's what they say. If they're serious about protecting the ecological, why would you have unimpeded flows when you're collecting water instead of increasing your flows in the drier months when you may have the chance of salt water coming on in? You know, no water flows, then you have that risk. Their science is flawed. They don't care about the predatory fish, the wide-mouth bass that are not indigenous. They're scooping up all the little salmon as they try getting out to sea. Biofish in Oakdale has created some habitats for the salmon, and they have seen the salmon increase by 500% over a 5-year period. That doesn't mean that we have now 50,000 salmon. No, but we still have a lot of salmon coming on up, and we can get more and more as long as we keep their beds going, and we also introduce farm salmon, fries, I guess they call them, into the system. At the same time, work against the predatory fish. The real reason for all of this is to protect Southern California, who says we have 50% of the votes, therefore we will have the tunnels. And they just started purchasing it. So, will it change the mind of a non-legislative board appointed by the governor? No, it won't change the mind. It'll be met in the court system. But the real reason for this unimpeded flow is because that's when the peak time the Sacramento River will be pumping down to Southern California for their reservoirs. Now, to give them justice, we have water rights, and they want to remove the water rights. That is a U.S. Supreme Court issue. That is not a state Supreme Court issue. That's not even a local issue. That is U.S. Supreme Court issue. So, not only do I recommend that we oppose, or we adopt this resolution opposing the State Water Board, but we also, in the future, have discussions on what's our fair share in the legal fight that's impending. I know the county has 500,000. I think Merced County is also putting in 500,000. San Joaquin is also putting in, and so they're going to be asking all the cities a pro rata type of input. So that should be coming on down. So that's my 2-bit worth.
Well, I had some comments and thoughts on this one too, and it's kind of interesting because in reading and preparing for tonight's meeting, doing a little research, first I was like, having this water, coming down the river, taking care of some of our ecological issues, and really worrying about the saline content of the water down further in the delta. I don't know. Maybe my stance needs to be a little more environmental. And so I have to say, at first, I kind of was swaying that way, but I kept coming back to the 40% in here, that they wanted to take 40%. And my comments and my notes on here, because I go through and mark them up, is like, whoo, 40% seems a really high percentage. So I kind of couldn't let that one go. And the other one that kept kind of coming back was the pulse flow from February to June. Now, this is a complicated situation here, and I'm not sure I got it all straight in my head, but in my mind, a pulse flow from February to June is usually our rainy season. And if they're wanting us to send 40% down, I'm just kind of adding it all up in my head, and I see the water guy in the back going, yeah, Cruz, you got it. So the first thing that kind of was coming to me was like 40% increase of flow during this pulse time. We have some areas in our city that may tend to lend themselves to flooding. If we happen to have a really busy year with rain, I think we have some situations that we as the city kind of need to take a look at and think about. So that kind of sent some red flags up for me. And then, what else did I have here? I kind of had the strange suspicion that this was kind of tied into the twin tunnels, which I don't agree with at all, because that sends our water down south. And I just think we need to learn from lessons in the past about the Owens Valley. I don't know if anyone's familiar with the Owens Valley. There used to be this lush valley that had a huge agriculture area the other side of the mountain range, and the water got shipped to LA, and it was no longer lush anymore. I don't know if you've ever been to the Owens Valley over there. It's desert. And I would hate to see that happen here in the Central Valley, and I think we just kind of need to learn from some of those mistakes that were taken and done in the past. And so I, too, am for opposing this, and I kind of came around to it a different way and thought I would be saying something different here this evening. So that's where I stand on this one.
Well, it really bothers me as I ride down 99 and 5 and I see all of the farms that used to be, the orchards that used to be there, and they're dry. And, who's going to give them water? Their wells are dry. The land is dry, especially, in this the drought. Who knows that the drought is going to come back again? It probably will, but with our climate change expectations and all, but without water, need water to have food. And what is the Central Valley here for? We grow food. So and then the other thing is that you see all of the farms now, or the orchards, everybody's changed over, not everybody, but a lot of farms, have changed over to almonds. People have spent a lot of money into these almond orchards, and I would just hate for their orchards not to get the proper water that they need. People are spending money. They're looking for a return on their investment, and I would hate for them not to be able to get that. I did go to that rally. I was there shouting, "Stop the water grab!" So, and I do believe that I personally say no to the water board. Thank you.
I'd like to just make a couple of statements. I agree with everything that was said previously by the mayor and the other two council members, but climate control, which Vice Mayor Martinez just mentioned, is something critical. Nobody really knows what it's going to do to impact water as it gets warmer. I've heard stats saying that in 50 to 75 years, it's going to be so warm that up by Vancouver on the Columbia River, that's going to be the new wine belt. That's going to have an effect on our water also. Likewise, a factor that's been left out on top of everything else I've said, we are growing and we are going to continue to grow because we're becoming a suburb of San Francisco, just like LA did. And that water is going to be needed to support our additional populations down the road. And I totally agree with our mayor when he says the whole purpose of this is to replace the water from the Sacramento River that they're sending down to Los Angeles.
I'll just say I have 2 signs in my front yard opposing. Thank you.
Anyone from the public wish to speak? Well, can I have a staff member speak? He's public enough, isn't he?
Of course, he's the most educated person we have in the room on this issue, so I'll be fine.
Really?
Yeah, while increasing this water flow going down, it will hurt our aquifer. And my opinion is that the states wants that so they can control our aquifer.
And I'd have to wholeheartedly agree with you, and that was one of the points that I wanted to make.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I made it at the state of the city.
Yeah, I know you did. That's the reason why I remembered it. One of the things that I wanted to point out that we keep hearing the same thing, everybody keeps landing on this 40%.
That's a minimum.
The verbiage is actually 30 to 60%. That's where they're saying they'll land in the middle, 40%, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's what they'll do. They'll have the ability to send as much as 60% down that river in pulse flows. So that's one of the things that we need to keep in mind when we keep, like, I think the press has kind of latched onto that 40%, but that's not the true number. The true number can be anywhere from 30 to 60%, right? And that is what scares me the most. And this wholeheartedly flies in the face of Sigma, and that's what we're currently trying to work on. And they want us to do this, like at this point in time now, the state of California requires every city to do a water audit, which I'm currently working on. And that water audit says that we have the ability to pump X amount of gallons, we have the ability to supply X amount of gallons, and what our loss is in leakage or whatever type of thing. And we have to certify that. And it costs us money every year to certify that to them. But yet, they can take that 5-member board and take the water as they see fit. And here is my 2 cents on this personally, is that, and I'm going to date myself, and most of you are probably going to remember this, is that when Jerry Brown's father was the governor of California, he looked at the peripheral canals. He was looking at a conduit to get water down south. And I think this is our governor's trying to pick up his father's legacy and put these 2 tunnels in place to get that water down south because his father had started it. And this is something that he's going to accomplish come hell or high water, no pun intended, before he is out of office.
Anyone else from the public? Seeing none, I bring it back to the council for consideration.
I make a motion that we pass an ordinance opposing the State Water Resources Control Board's Bay Delta and substitute environmental document.
I second.
We have a motion to oppose the State Water Resource Control Board Bay Delta Plan and substitute environmental document. And support the resolution. Did I handle it? Do you think I could handle it?
I was just worried. But
And that first motion was by Campbell, second, Farmer Martinez. Thank you. Council members Fossey,
Yes, definitely.
Campbell,
Yes.
Jones Cruz,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Barbara Martinez,
Yes.
Mayor O'Brien.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, moving on to staff comments. Item 7.1.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, one item in particular, just on the behalf of staff, we wanted to thank everybody that came to the not time capsule event, whatever we want to call it. We had a really nice time, and we put a lot of work into it with the Historical Society, who we'd also like to thank as well. So it was nice. We weren't actually sure over the last month and a half kind of planning the event that anyone was going to show up aside from maybe the 5 of you and a few people in the audience. So it was nice to have a full room, and we did raise some money that will go to the rec department and to the Historical Society. So thank you very much.
Thank you. No other staff comment? Okay. Councilmember Fossey?
Thank you, Mayor. Well, this is our first council meeting since school started, so I wanted to say happy school started, parents. Yay. But let's remember school is open, so be careful when you're out there when the kids are getting there ready to take their bus. One of the highest frustration level, at least for people that live in my neighborhood, which is between Roselle and Oakdale, would be Clarabelle and Roselle. And just so you know, I do harass him every week about it and when we're going to get our light, and he has just informed me that we will be getting construction started on September 24th. So be patient. It's going to take a little while to get done, and it's going to be packed, and it's going to be horrendous, but once it's done, hallelujah, we'll have a light. So please be careful out there. Thank you.
Councilmember Campbell?
Just like to say that we're coming into the fall, the weather's changing, and I agree with Councilmember Fossey. Be careful when you're driving, the school's open now. And there'll be events coming up this fall that are being sponsored by nonprofits in the city. Look around for them and attend if you can.
Councilmember Cruz?
Yes, I wanted to first off thank Vicki Holt from our library. I don't know about you guys, but I sit there and listen to her reports month after month and think, man, there's a lot of stuff going on at the library. And I don't know that I've ever thanked her for bringing that to us and letting us know that's going on. And if you have not driven by the library during the summer, the library got a facelift, and I have to say, it looks beautiful. They repainted, they cleaned up. When they'd sprinkle and have sprinklers on water, it would hit the dirt, and it had these big dirt stains on the side of the building. They took care of all that, and if you haven't got a chance to drive by, the library looks amazing. They trimmed up some trees and cleaned it up. So I just wanted to say, check out the library. Looks pretty good. The dinner dance for the time capsule, it was a great evening. I had a really good time. And I think we need to do more of those things. It was really awesome to spend some time with our neighbors and community event like that. It was fabulous. So thanks for all the work that went into that. And last but not least, wish everyone a happy and safe Labor Day weekend. Kind of ends up winding down summer, which is sad. I love summertime, but onto the fall and winter. Here we go. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Mayor?
I believe that the food bank is going to have a fundraiser, spaghetti dinner, and all the people that they serve each and every Friday throughout the month. There's quite a few that are in need in our community, so they're raising funds to continue their great work that they do. And I think that's about it. Well, I did have a lot of fun at the rally, as we mentioned earlier. There were probably, I would say, maybe about 1,000 people.
Well, more than that. There was about
More than
1,800.
that? Yeah, it was a lot of people, all up and down the valley and from the Bay Area. We had several speakers, and everyone, it just was really good just to see everybody come together for one cause and be so strong in their beliefs about, we need our water. And just a safe and happy holiday to everyone. Thank you.
We're going to go back to 7.1.
One last item. It looks like it's going to be September 5th at 10 a.m., which is next Wednesday. We have a sign for Scott McRitchie that we've created for the trail that was dedicated to him. So we're going to do like a little unveiling. Shouldn't take more than 10 minutes, but if anybody from the community or council would like to be there, 10 o'clock was the time that we chat about with Scott. And if you could stop in, if not, that's okay too. He's every time I see him, he says, I really don't need any recognition. At this point, we've already bought the sign, so it's going up, and it's really great. It's got a picture of him leading kids through the trail, and so anybody that would like to attend, we'd appreciate it.
Thank you. We're having a lot of movement with Consolidated Fire Protection District, Stanislaus Consolidated Fire Protection District. And one of the things I would like to have is a monthly report from our representative.
I'll get in touch with her.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the staff for the time capsule. I heard mention that a lot of people thought the opening of the time capsule was canceled because of comments made by someone outside the city about it in the newspapers. But it was held, and we had about 60 people there. That was total. That was staff and public. I do appreciate, some of you have mentioned I didn't come because I thought it was canceled. I think the city should speak for the city in the future, but in that event, I thank the staff for doing that, and I thank the staff also for the event for the evening, which was excellent. Our downtown medium looks great. I mean, the flowers, is drip system, fantastic. But we have a lot of trees throughout the city that are dead or have dying we need to take care of. Just because we got one area looking nice, let's keep it all nice. And a lot of it is landscape and lighting districts should not have an issue with getting those plants removed and new ones installed. I had contrast. Oh, yes. I have the contrast between those that are supporting the water grab. There was two rallies. You didn't mention it. There's two rallies. One had about 1,800 people opposing the land grab, and one supporting it had 6 wanting to protect the fish. Protect the fish. So they were misinformed on how fish migrate. But there was 6 that supported it, and there was about 1,800 that does not support the water grab. And that's something that will be long fight, and I hope we retain our water rights. Okay, with that, we're going to move into closed session, consisting of item 8.1, conference with real property negotiators pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.8, property 062-031-005, 006, and 007. Agency negotiator Sean Scully, city manager. Property negotiator Ametis Inc. Item 8.2, conference with labor negotiators pursuant to Government Code 54957.6. Agency representative Sean Scully, city manager. Employee organizations, mid-management bargaining unit. Item 8.3, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, significant exposure to litigation pursuant to subdivision Bravo of Government Code 54956.9, one potential case. At this time, anyone from the public can comment on the closed session items as set forth in the agenda prior to us going to closed session. Is there anyone from the public wishing to speak on these? Seeing none, we adjourn to closed session.
Hey, it's not bad for, let's see, 8 o'clock, we haven't had a meeting in, what, a month and a half? Month?
Dr. Kemp said that he's scheduled for 9/11.
Surprised me.
Am I going out? The regular city council local redevelopment authority meeting, council meeting is reconvened to report from closed session. Item 9.1, report from closed session on item 8.1, conference with real property negotiators. Direction has been provided to staff. Item 9.2, report from closed session on item 8.2, conference with labor negotiators, mid-management bargaining unit. Direction has been provided to staff. Item 9.3, report from closed session on item 8.3, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, one potential case. Direction has been provided to staff. With that, we are adjourned.